Beans and rice.
Hi Joe, hi Dory.
Hey there.
Oh. Yep.
Put some different types of sausage in there.
That sounds good. There will be no carryover. We told your principal, assistant principal tonight, they have their virtual parent meetings tonight.
So of course they schedule on school board night.
Well, I scheduled it. Kathy and I did. So, yeah, it was.
Okay.
Who's all here? Is Stephanie here?
No, Stephanie will not be here, and neither will, Andy.
Okay.
I love those little tunes.
I know, that's I get a notification every time somebody comes onto the Zoom.
Right.
I'm showing 6:30,
Yep, it is 6:30.
and we have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
I'll call the meeting to order. If you could all please join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
States of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
Liberty
for
and
all.
justice for all.
Somehow I don't expect us to ever get in sync on that.
No, not when we're, yeah, no, I would agree with you.
Okay. Do you have any agenda adjustments?
I do, I would ask that we strike, 9.1 from the agenda, as we don't need it this evening.
Are there any objections?
Nope. Any objections, to board members on lines to striking 9.1?
No.
I got no objection.
All right. Well, I think the easiest way to strike it is when it gets down for someone to make a motion, nobody makes a motion and it just dies,
Fair enough.
Right.
instead of us going through another vote now,
I think that makes good sense.
okay?
Yep.
And if somebody accidentally moves it, nobody second it, please. All right, item 2.1. Get a motion to approve the minutes of the October 14th, 2020 Board of Directors meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, comments, corrections? I don't hear any. I didn't see any, but they were pretty good.
Nope.
Okay, so we'll
All
do
right, so then we'll call for the vote.
Bob,
Yes?
Jen,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and Dory.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, petitions and communications.
I have none this evening.
We'll go into report, superintendent's report, or oral report.
Yeah, just a few things to talk about briefly tonight. So Kathy and I attended the MSSA conference today. It was a Zoom conference, I have to say. Doing Zoom conferences is very different from doing them in person. You know, it's hard. You've got 14 things in front of you, and then you've got this going on, you know, on the computer. It's just interesting. But it was an interesting day. We heard some stuff from Drummond Woodsum. We heard a lot from the commissioner this morning, and which was good. You know, the commissioner's doing a good job. I'm really impressed with the work that she's done and her staff have done. This has been I know that in the past, as March rolled around, I was a little critical of things that were going on at DOE, but I think that ship is righted, and they're really doing a great job of communicating and, you know, talking to the field and soliciting the field. So we heard from the commissioner and deputy commissioner this morning. And there was some stuff in there about state assessment, but I'll let Kathy talk about that. She told me not to steal her thunder today. So, anyway, beyond that, I wanted to let you know too, Robbie will talk about it a little bit under finance and facilities, but the performance contract, the work is pretty much getting wrapped up. We've got a couple of more things left to do, but that's looking very good. I do need to let you all know that I did freeze the budget last week. I am incredibly concerned I'm concerned about the next couple of years of the biennium, when the new biennial budget comes out, but I'm also concerned, we got a significant amount of funds from the federal government. Those all have been spent on preparing us, or allowing us to be open and buying things, due to COVID-19. Those all have to be spent until the end of the month. I'm worried that there will be no more, the end of December. Once that's gone, those are gone. And so I'm incredibly worried about what January through June is going to look like. I don't think this is going away, and I'm worried. We've ordered a ton of PPE. We have more PPE than I even thought was imaginable to have, but what happens if we don't? And so I'm very worried about what that's going to look like. Beyond that, like I said, I'm worried about winter. I don't know what winter's going to look like with heating and things like that. So I made the determination to freeze the budget now. Scott and I reassessed that on a bi-weekly basis, looking at expenditures, but again, right at the moment, I think it was good. It was the best thing to do given the circumstances in front of us. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly was the governor's address today. I don't know if anybody saw that, but I took that from that there is a potential that there will be more things coming. The numbers have spiked across the state, and I don't know what that's going to look like. She stopped short of saying that there was another shutdown coming, and we'd go backwards in the phases, but I do believe that's coming, and so we're looking at what that's going to look like for us.
Yeah, I did hear it. I did hear it too, Andy.
Yeah, she didn't come right out and
It's
say.
happening across the country already.
Yeah.
There are some places closing their schools.
Well, and I think, one of the things our staff, our teachers, the entire RSU has done is we're well prepared in case that happens, just working on some logistical things, but, overall, I feel pretty good if we have to close again, in-person instruction, that we've got a good plan in place if that happens. She didn't come right out and say that, but I just, my gut feeling after watching that is that could be on the horizon, so.
And chances are it could end up being like the window between Thanksgiving and the beginning of January.
Beginning of January.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised
Nope.
about that a bit.
I wouldn't either.
No.
The last thing, we got notification this week from the Maine Principals Association that winter sports have been delayed. I have no idea what that's gonna look like. We'll be waiting on that as well. So, other than that concludes my report.
Any questions? Okay, I had something went through my mind and then it slipped out again as you were talking. Oh, I know what it was. You mentioned the Maine School Management Association.
Yes, yep,
Who is our rep that's attending the?
we didn't have anybody.
We didn't have anybody?
Nope.
Okay, I wondered. Okay.
Yep.
I got a blurb about the regional meeting on Friday.
Yep.
And the bylaw, the changes.
I could still sign somebody up for that, if somebody wanted to attend the delegate assembly. The conference is Friday, Saturday, and it is virtual. From what I understand, attendance is not huge at this point, I think, because it's a Friday, Saturday. But if we want to send a delegate, we could do that. I can still register right up through until, I think, Thursday night.
If there's anybody interested in attending any of those seminars that they're having via Zoom, please let Andy know.
Yep.
Okay. No appointments, resignations, retirements?
None this week?
All right. There's no questions, I didn't hear any. We'll move on to 4.2, Director of CAI report, Kathy.
Yeah, I have three things to share tonight. The first one is we are holding parent nights. Similar to our kind of chats with Andy and Kathy's style, our pre-K-5 friends are having meetings this week, and 6 through 12 will be having 2 parent nights next week. And ultimately, our goal is to start building two-way communications. It's kind of open house style, where we can have our teachers kind of give some information about the classrooms, answer questions about hybrid learning, and also elicit some feedback from parents to make adjustments. So we can make some adjustments on the classroom level, not necessarily at the building or district level. But it allows our teachers to kind of build those relationships with the parents. So that's been going on. Second is I've been nominated and accepted into the DOE Leadership Development Program, so I will be undergoing that for the next year. I'll be meeting with representatives from all over the state at different levels of school management to kind of work on strategic planning and designing. So I'm excited about that. And the last thing, as Andy alluded to, we kind of known that this was coming, but it was kind of official today. The DOE has canceled their Empower Me contract with that company. And because of that, we are now going to be seeking a new contract for a different kind of MEA. So when we think about is MEA going away, no. MEA is a suite of assessments. It comes from Access, which is our ELL learners, to the alternative assessments for our functional life skills students or students with intellectual disabilities, to our science assessments. So some of these assessments are still going to be in place. But when we talk about the MEA, people start to think about the ELA and mathematics. And so they are currently under negotiations with another company to do that assessment, which means that our assessment's probably going to be moved to May, and it's going to be under a different company in it, and one that we're probably going to be more familiar with. What that means for SATs and College Board and other things like that are still a question. I think that there will be some political ramifications going forward, but we will have a lot more professional development in my future, as well as in our teachers' futures, and figuring out how. I think the goal on the switch at the DOE level is to find an assessment that our teachers can give an assessment to the students and actually get timely assessment data from and inform their instruction. And so that is a win if that truly can happen with our MEA testing. But we will know more information in the next couple months.
Any questions?
So Kathy, my question is, knowing the planning for the SATs and all that's involved with that, especially for juniors and how that was the measurement tool, have they given any indication about what would be different or what they would use differently?
The DOE is, so under the federal guidelines under ESSA, the DOE has to provide an assessment for grades 3 through 8 in one high school year. Currently, they are looking to do 3 through 8 in 10th grade. And they are avoiding the conversation about SATs because they don't want to advertise or promote any kind of specific assessment, except for ones that they're in contract with.
Okay.
As I said, they've been avoiding the word SAT. They've been avoiding the College Board conversation. I do know that they're going to be seeking some input from superintendents and curriculum people to be on an advisory to look at the restrictions, look at the requirements, and figure out how to make a plan. And that will be in the next month. So I would assume that we'll find out some more information from those groups and guidance. But in terms of what that means for SATs, I think they're looking at the colleges, for those who have made it optional, and to see if they're going to still require it before we start making our high school students take it as well.
Yeah.
So I think they're waiting for like the trickle down effect.
Yeah, and I would guess that having everything shut down this past spring has really given that a major push to not have to do the SAT as well. Because it's not an appropriate measurement tool for every single kid. It just isn't.
I would agree with you, for sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
And, but we also are under the piece of, Betsy from the U.S. Department of DOE said, there's no waivers this year. You have to do your state assessment. So I think that's where the state is saying, okay, so you're gonna make us do it. Let's do it so it's informative and it's the most beneficial for our schools.
Yeah.
That's not a one size fits all kind of assessment.
Good. Well, I look forward to hearing the updates.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And just so you all know, the leadership things Kathy spoke of, that's a pretty big honor for her, and I think she deserves a lot of kudos for that. She was nominated. That's going to be a lot of work. But I'm excited for her and excited for RSU4 that she's a part of that, so.
And
Yes,
congratulations.
that is something to be pleased about and to acknowledge. Congratulations, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay. Financial report?
I'll report on it in the committee report, but it was in our packet. If anybody has questions, Scott's online. Is he?
No, he's not, I can answer him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Andrea has joined us, just for the other board members'
Yep.
information. Welcome, Andrea. Hope you're feeling okay. All right, so we'll go on to administrators' report, principals' reports.
Let's see, Ben, you wanna go first tonight?
Why not? Thank you for having me here this evening, but so looking at what's been going on so far, I think we finally have reached the top of the mountain and we're coming back down again. I think the staff and the students are doing a phenomenal job with the new routines that we have developed. It doesn't seem like we've been surprised, really. I've been really proud of the pre-K2 kids at SPS. We haven't had a mask issue. I actually bought a t-shirt that said "Masky, masky, washy, washy," which was a Kathy Martin term for the middle of the summer, thinking that that's what we'll be repeating every day for every student all the time at the primary school. But the kids have really done a fantastic job following our SOPs and being part of our new normal. I don't think we've really had a mask issue yet at the primary school. At the middle school level, the kids are really getting into routines of keeping the distance in the hallways. The small classes have been awful quiet at the middle school. I don't think the teaching staff is used to that. But it's been real easy to, assist the kids that we do have in front of us. I guess on a downside, the cohort D kids, they're probably not performing the way we need them, the way we wish that they would perform. But I think we're doing all we can do to reach out to them to make sure that their education is accessible for them and their families. We finally got the rest of the PPE in for the middle school, so we finally have all the plexiglass and the carts and the baskets that we needed. Really it just feels like we've done a good job. The staff feels confident in the processes that we have in place. We haven't had a large amount of people calling in sick, and then we check in with the staff once a week, and it really does seem like people have taken it into the new normals.
All right, thank you. So the cohort D people, those were not assigned by us, was the choice of the parents along with the students. So hopefully we're reaching out to those who made the decisions to be in D and not in one of A or B, and working with them to see if there's any way we can support them in their decision so that their child doesn't, or their student, I shouldn't say child, but that their student or students don't suffer for lack of getting all they can out of the educational experience we're offering.
Yes.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, Ben, I should probably ask Kathy, but I just remembered it. Do you know what percentage of the surveys we got back was?
Oh, the parent surveys.
The parent
Yes,
surveys?
Kathy.
Yeah, we currently have about 265 surveys back from parents.
Yep.
And I would, just to say that we have had an increase in amount of students that are going from cohort D back and asking to come back to A and B.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Mondays we're constantly making some adjustments and trying to make some transitional plans for students. And we are reaching out to cohort D. Some are more challenging than others. And I think in that survey, it did show that there could be some more movement for other cohort D students to come back to us, at least in a hybrid model.
Yeah, we had 8 kids alone last week at SPS, and I think we're up to 12 kids now in the middle school coming out of cohort D back into the building, which is
Yeah.
great.
It's fantastic.
Yep, that's good.
Okay. All right, no other questions? And I'll move on to Marco.
Marco.
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for a couple of minutes to update you on happenings at the high school. So day-to-day life continues to run as smoothly as possible. Again, given the times that we're in, Just like with Ben, we're continuing to remind students of protocols in place to help make sure that they're safe and secure, and students are doing a fantastic job abiding by those rules, which is great. We're in the middle of Spirit Week, if you can imagine that, with some dress-up days, Decades Day, School Colors Day, and today was Pajama Day, where we're all remote, so it made sense to do something like that, which is good. They're hosting virtual categories games at the end of the day, and keeping points, just again to kind of keep some semblance of normalcy, again, given the situation that we're in. Clubs and organizations continue to find ways to meet, French Club in particular, Drama Club. We have our esports that are going on, and then obviously sports, which I'm sure Jim will talk about a little bit later. And academically, we're closing in on the close of the first quarter, which happens to come up on the 6th of November, which is pretty wild to think. And we are seeing a lower failure rate, especially with our 9th grade students through the BAR process, where we're looking at real-time data with our teachers. And also one of the benefits of that 4x4 schedule. And so we look forward to seeing those results across the board with all of our students. And then, as Ben mentioned, we continue to be concerned with our cohort D students. We put together a team of ed techs and our interventionists to call cohort D students once a week to check in to see how things are going, to address any issues, and to pass the major concerns on to myself and Ms. Garnett Sias, just to continue to run that feedback loop through our different practices that we have in the building, whether it be BAR, our student assistance team, or through our attendance policies that we're running. And what we're doing is we're seeing that, we're addressing these issues, which is helping either kids come back to the building or, get back on track and have some semblance of passing classes as we get closer to the end of the quarter. And finally, we look forward to our Parents' Night that will be hosted virtually. I want to thank everybody that's helped put that together. That's going to be on November 4th, the day after our election, so that should be pretty interesting. Just because I know I've said this a couple of times to the staff, I'll probably be up most of the night just watching election results, and it'll be interesting then to have a parent night the next night. But we look forward to that. We have a schedule that parents will follow. They'll follow their own student schedule and check in with the teachers and just talk about how things are going, what they're covering in classes, so on and so forth. So all in all, lots of good things happening at Oak Hill High School, and I appreciate the time again, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Yeah, Marco, do you think you could contribute to the smaller number of students failing 9th grade to the more one-on-one that they get with teachers with the smaller class size?
Sure, absolutely, Robbie. So not only is it smaller class sizes, the BAR program that we're running, but also, I lost my train of thought there. What else is it that we do with 9th graders? Oh, the 4x4 schedule across the board. So they're only focusing on, 3 to 4 classes instead of, 5 or 6 classes. So it just allows them to continue to follow up day in and day out in those same classes. So I think all of those factors are helping in that.
Thank you.
Well, and I will say too, last week, Glenn and I and Scott toured all the buildings. One of the things that I saw, and you always see this, our staff are amazing, but you talked about it, Robbie, that more one-on-one attention. The class sizes are smaller. The other thing we're not seeing is the behavioral struggles.
Right.
With smaller classes, with more attention, that has been a bonus for sure. We've had some things, we'll always have some things, but the number is significantly less. So.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
Now, excuse me, Jamie and Michael are not here tonight. They have their virtual parent nights for Libby Tozier and
Okay,
all right.
so special ed report?
Yep. Nancy, are you there?
Yeah, I am here. I have to get my video up. Can you see me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I really don't have any new news tonight, but sometimes no news is good news. Most of our students continue to adhere to the safety guidelines, and that very few that cannot, our staff is pretty stealth in doubling up with their face masks and shield. And if you've never experienced that, it's quite a difficult thing, and they're doing it with a smile on their face, so that's wonderful. Our teachers are working with students 4 days a week in person, 2 days a week in person, and they're working with kids who are remote completely. And as you might imagine, typical instruction for kids in special education might involve manipulatives and other differentiated ways of presenting materials. So our staff has been really creative in designing methods of continuing to provide manipulatives, but they're online, and they're doing that on their own. It's pretty amazing. We're trying to make a sizable dent still in the number of outstanding evaluations for both re-eligibility of kids and initial eligibility, due to nobody's fault but COVID, that we had many evaluations from the spring, as I said before, that were not done. So we have those to do now, in addition to the ones that keep rolling through the year. We're continuing to contract with outside psychological evaluators as we can find them, because many districts are in the same boat as we are. So we're hoping to catch up at some point. We're continuing to hold the many meetings of special ed in virtual platforms, and that's working well for everyone. And as I had said previously, I think attendance on the part of parents and itinerant providers for services for kids is actually increased because of the flexibility that Zoom meetings allow. We continue to have just one teacher opening at Carrie Ricker, so overall, we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you. Any questions?
I will say too, Nancy talks about bringing in outside providers. So, one of the things where we are behind, we are able to leverage some of the COVID relief funds to help beef that up. So Nancy's been pretty forward thinking about looking at a company called Presence Learning that has an online evaluation tool where they use cameras and things like that. So we're looking into that, but luckily it won't that kind of stuff won't hit the regular budget because we're able to use the COVID relief funds to pay for those. So,
Is that something that the funds will have to be spent by the end of the year also?
Yep, by
Okay.
December 30th.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, but it at least will put a good dent into that, I would think.
Right.
Wouldn't you, Nancy?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
Good.
Okay, any other questions for Nancy? Thank you very much. The technology report. Norma Jean.
Hi, good evening. For the technology report, right now in October, the technology staff are transitioning from assisting teachers with assessments and STAR and DIBELS benchmark to setting up their grade books and getting ready for the end of trimester 1, quarter 1. So they've been pretty busy with that. They're also, we've been doing data reports for October enrollment and also lots and lots of FRAM apps, which is great for us. We have 2 really large COVID-funded projects coming around quickly that need to be finished up by the end of the year. The first one is an amazing one, especially if we end up going remote, and it has all kinds of opportunities for later, is updating our firewall server hardware at each site, allowing both students and staff to connect in remotely. So if they have a very weak home internet, or they're using one of our hotspots and it's just not getting the job done, then they can connect into our servers, use our resources here on site. Which will be amazing for, and a lot of districts are going down that way. We're in line, and there's been schools after school wanting this, but like everybody else, we're having a hard time getting that hardware, getting the services done in a very short timeline, but we're on the books, so we're doing great there. The other project is updating the classrooms for remote learning and synchronous learning, that type of thing, by adding a conference camera into each classroom. So the goal is the conference camera, when we meet it, will be mounted on the back wall, pointed towards the whiteboard that we can zoom in on. And then the students that are in remotely can actually see instruction real time in the classroom, or it can be recorded and shared out afterwards. So that will be a big project. We'll be visiting every single teacher to see how they set up their classroom, how they can best be set up for them. And then once we do our initial round, the vendors will be in and doing the same thing for a walkthrough. But again, a super tight timeline and trying to get that work done without disturbing classrooms and teachers and students and keeping COVID in mind as well. So
That was the camera that we had in
Yes, that
Demo,
I wouldn't let
okay.
Andy play with tonight.
Yeah.
He was very sad
Awesome.
about that.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and we do have the robotics club starting up both at the high school and the middle school. We'll be using not Lego robotics in the middle school, but this year we'll be doing Spiros, and what we're doing is trying to figure out remote kits that we can send home with kids and still keep them engaged with that and transitioning them through. And then esports is underway. It's having some good success. The numbers are a little bit lower, but it can be expected. And hopefully Jordan Lord will be reporting out the next time we have a technology report to give you an update on how they're doing and kind of educate you a little bit more on esports.
So the remote cameras or the cameras gonna mount, are they gonna be able to be moved around the room? Or are they just gonna be a stationary shot?
They are stationary, but they're a focus tilt zoom camera, so we can point it wherever we like. And we already know that we might mount it one place and then we might change our mind and mount it somewhere else. It doesn't connect to the internet, so there's no web access to that camera. So it'll only work if it's connected directly into a teacher's PC, which is amazing. So that gives them full control over
350
that.
degrees of view.
Right.
Yeah, and they have a remote, so they can actually rotate it. They haven't got to go up there and turn it, so.
That's what I meant, so they can rotate it to
Yeah.
different
You
parts.
don't remember him playing with it last
Right.
week?
Well, he said there some are like this, some also have a chip in them, that the camera will follow the chip.
Yeah, this one doesn't, and it won't be distracting that way. It will only move. So we have some owls in district, which are very distracting when they twist and hoot and do what they do. These, the teacher can actually do that herself, like Andy did. He zoomed in and it can rotate around. I think it's like 340 degrees.
Yeah, it was
It doesn't go
340,
exactly
350.
360,
Yeah.
but
But
being on the
pretty
wall,
amazing.
it doesn't need to either.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Moving on, adult ed athletic report. Jim Palmer.
Hi, good evening. I'll start with adult ed, an update. So we've been getting a pretty steady flow of students coming in as we're still offering the high set testing and high school diploma classes. What we're looking to do is implement a program called High Set Academy, which I just got trained on this week. And what that will allow is for students to do some of the work a little bit more remotely, instead of having to do the prep for the high set. So something that our whole alliance, the Interscholastic Alliance, some of the other programs around us. As far as athletics, speaking both for middle school and high school, it's been
Hey, Jim?
pretty successful. I would say that you have.
Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of muffled. I don't know if you're too close to your speaker,
I think the
your
internet.
microphone.
Yeah, turn off his camera. Ask
If
him
you
to turn off his
just kind of
camera.
sit back a little bit, well, maybe we won't get so much feedback.
And if he turns off his camera too.
Yeah, if you turn your camera off, Jim, I think it'll be better.
Ah. Still there?
Yeah, did you just say you're looking at me?
Yeah, but it's still not good.
Is that better?
Yes.
Let me try a different room.
I love the Zoom meeting.
Is this any better?
Yes.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So we're in our last week of games with both the high school and middle school sports. It's been pretty successful up to this point. I would say that you can kind of see in the athletes that they know that there's really nothing at the end as far as playoffs and so forth. So that's a little disappointing to see that our athletes don't have something at the end of the season. But in all honesty, we would have had a pretty successful playoff run with a lot of our teams. Our field hockey team has only lost 2 games to the same team. Our girls soccer has only lost 1 game. Boys soccer is rebuilding. They lost 10 seniors last year, so they've had a little bit of a struggle, but they play awful hard, and we had a lot of young kids to look forward to coming up through. And as Andy mentioned, the winter, there's really, they delayed the start of it There's not been a lot of conversation of what that's gonna look like yet. Part of the obstacles are, one is the mask wearing. How are we gonna be able to make that work inside? And secondly, a lot of schools, including ourselves, are using their gym as a classroom for spacing as well as cafeteria. So that's going to be quite a bit of work to make sure that we can get the turnaround for practices and games the next day. So bottom line is, don't know what the winter will look like. I think we'll hear something in the next couple of weeks. My hope is that they don't drag it out like they did prior to the fall season, that if they're going to postpone it until after the holidays in January, they make that decision soon. So our athletes won't be hanging on string waiting to see what's going to happen. But we did have one highlight last week. Field hockey player Adele Surratt broke the school record with goals scored. She scored her 53rd goal on the road and holds a new record for goals scored in field hockey.
Any questions for Jim? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have our student rep with us tonight?
I think Riley is here.
Yes.
All right, Riley, what's going on?
So, not much different since the last time I talked, which is about, I think, around a month ago. I definitely would say that myself and other students are much more in the swing of things as compared to when I was last in the meeting. The initial kind of getting used to it period is definitely worn off, so it's definitely easier day to day. Concerns-wise is still the same as before. I know today there was Dr. Shaw and the main CDC had a meeting and there were upwards of 80 cases and not looking super well. So personally wise, that's still a concern, just making sure all the buildings are staying safe. Student wise, it's not as widespread, but there's definitely students who are also concerned with the rise in Maine currently. I've heard a few kids, specifically at the high school, have a bit of concern in regards to AP students. I know that just because of the way in which we did our blocking, where we have red day classes are all this semester and white day are the rest, that works for 99% of people, but I've heard from multiple AP kids and AP teachers that it's going to require some additional resources in order to keep the kids up to date. Personally, for myself, I don't have a test until May, but for example, my AP bio class will be done in January. So that's 3 months without officially being in that class. However, I know that Mr. Aliberti and as well as all the AP teachers have done like a good job communicating to the kids that there's going to be a lot of resources out there for us, and that it's not like the teachers are all of a sudden going to walk away. So that's still, while I'm thankful for that, it's still just something in the back of my mind and the mind of other AP students, that is knowing that the test is not going to be any easier and we're going to have a more difficult time preparing for it. I can speak for the boys soccer team that is correct what Mr. Palmer said. We're currently in a rebuilding year for sure, but definitely lots of young, strong freshmen. So I'm guessing 2 to 3 years from now they'll be doing quite well. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you much.
Thank you, Riley.
Okay, other reports.
I have none.
Okay, so we're gonna do comments from the floor. Once again, I'll remind those that this is a period where anybody can make a comment on any subject. However, it cannot be derogatory towards any staff person or student. These are general comments that the public can go and make. It's not a time for discussion. If you have an item that you feel needs discussion, then you should contact either the superintendent or myself and ask that we get it onto an agenda. And either one of us may very well inquire if you've already talked to the proper people, either the teacher or the principal or somebody like that before it comes to the board, so that we can try and get any issues resolved at the most appropriate level. So with that being said, does anybody have any comments? You can either raise your hand, you can speak in can chat, or speak up if you can't see a hand.
So far,
So nothing so far.
I don't have any hands raised, nothing in the chat yet.
Okay, no hands raised, nothing in chat. All right, I'm going to take that as there are no comments, and then we'll move on. If an issue comes up later on an item, which we don't really have many tonight, that you would like to speak upon, we typically entertain that ability after the board has done its discussion. But it appears to me that our agenda tonight is just like 5 policies and nothing really to be discussed. So we'll move on. There's no old business, new business. Entertain a motion to approve the first reading of the following policy, EBCB, emergency evacuation drills.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, Andy, underneath the part where it says in the emergency evacuation drills,
Mm-hmm.
are we in contact with our first responders, fire department, police department? And do they go over where students are supposed to go through the building to get out?
They have, and that was part of our work that we just
Right.
did as we reviewed our crisis plans recently. So no different than we do our lockdown drills.
Right.
When we reviewed the crisis plan, Glenn also brought those to our local first
Okay,
responders as
great.
well. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's really important. You know, we've actually had some discussion this year about, we typically hold a district-wide lockdown day, and we
Mhm.
bring local
Mhm.
agencies in to view those and give us feedback. We're kind of trying to decide whether we're
Right.
doing that this year or not, given what's
Yeah.
going on in the world. But you know, we're in contact quite a bit. I know Glenn talks, I mean, with Wales Fire, you know, we talk to Sabatis.
Yeah.
I meet with the Sabatis PD quite frequently, so,
Yeah.
you know, we are in contact with those people. They have reviewed our plans and
Okay.
our evacuation
Well,
plans.
cause I just, we had an incident one time where the evacuation took place and all the kids went to the parking lot,
Mm.
and then the emergency vehicles were like, kids were trying to come in and they were milling around and,
Yeah, we took a look at all of those when
Yeah.
we redid the crisis and plans, the first time to
Yeah.
make sure that we didn't have that issue. Because the last thing we want is a bunch of students milling around when the fire department is
Right.
trying to come in. So yeah, definitely, Glenn assesses those quite frequently,
Okay,
because of that reason. And we actually have started having we've had lockdown drills, I believe, in all buildings at this point, and on both A and B days, so
Yep.
we're working through those as well.
alright, thanks.
Any other comments? So I would not, I guess these cookie cutter policies that we get are a good starting place. But since we know the names of our schools and what grade levels are in them, I'd made a suggestion that we actually personalize for RSU4 the first paragraph.
Yeah.
And instead of saying schools that have students in K through 4, that we actually mention the names of those schools.
Sure.
So we have 3 schools.
Yep.
Right, and then we have the middle school, and then we have the high school, and those are the 3 brackets. So what I wrote is just change that paragraph basically to go and make it apply to RSU4 by mentioning the 5 schools by name for the appropriate number of drills they're supposed to have.
Yeah.
I don't
we
know.
can do that. It'll be a little funky because, like, for instance, the different buildings, you know, grades 3 and 4, so we'll have to, grades 5 requires different, so I can
Well,
reword that.
no, it's not, because it's clear that if you have a grade 4 in a school, that whole school gets the same treatment as the 4th grade.
Right, and
So-
that's why I'll just have to make sure that they have the right numbers. So for instance, grade 5, requires.
We don't have a school with grade 5 regulation. We have 3 schools with K through 4 regulations, because 4th grade is in the same building as 5 and 6.
No, 4th grade, 3, 4, and 5 are in one
3, 4, so 3,
Yeah.
4, and 5, so it's still in that, so 3, 4, and 5 are under the K to 4
Right,
criteria
exactly.
of
So-
8 additional.
And so I just have to make sure that's worded correctly, but it's not a problem, it's just, I need to make
Yeah,
sure.
I tried to
it's-
make sure that I had the right schools, so there's,
Right, because even though fifth grade is there, we still have to fall under what we're 3 and 4 are required.
correct.
So, yeah, that's not a problem, I just need to make sure that it's labeled correctly,
Right.
that's all. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So.
This
that-
is taken right out of the law, that's all.
Yeah. So, I don't know, it's just, one of my little things about our policies, they should be ours when we can make them ours.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes sense just to be pretty generic.
Yeah, I can make those updates.
Any other comments? Seeing none, did we get a motion in a second?
We did.
We did.
Okay. So no others, then we'll call for the vote for the first reading.
All right, Bob,
Yes?
Jen,
Yes,
Robbie,
Yes,
Joan,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and Dory.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 6.2, to approve the first reading of the following policy, ABCF, automated external defibrillators. Motion, please.
So moved.
second.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I have a question. Are those, the AEDs, right? Are they for kids and adults? Because I know that they can come in two different sizes.
Yes.
yes.
Yep, they are. Yep.
And they're very clear with the instructions when you actually
Okay.
have to use them as
Yeah,
well.
they are. They're very clear.
Yeah.
The instructions are there. They actually have come a long ways.
They talk to you and tell you exactly what
Yep,
to
they
do.
tell you exactly what to do, what buttons to push. It's pretty amazing.
I
actually.
believe if you're not doing it right, then it won't let you even do it.
Yeah, it will
Right.
not work.
Right.
Nope.
All right,
If you take the CPR AED first aid class, it is very, very clear. I teach a CPR first aid class. I'm a trainer, and it's very, very clear.
all right, so I have a suggestion for a change. The second sentence in the first paragraph, where it says RSU4 may acquire one or more, we already have them.
Mhm.
So I suggested that RSU4 has acquired AEDs for the use in its schools and its school athletic events. Versus saying that we might do it,
Right.
and if we have them, we may use them here.
And when they need to be replaced, we do replace them, so.
All right?
That's a good thing.
Yep.
So that is my suggestion on that policy. Just to state what is the current practice that we have. Any other comments? Hearing none, then all those in favor of the first reading?
Bob,
Yes?
Jen,
Yes,
Robbie,
Yes,
Joan,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dory.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. 6.3, to approve the first reading of the following policy, EBCE, school closings and cancellations.
So moved.
second.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
mhm,
Alright. So there was some discussion early on about deleting the third paragraph. That says, when school is in session, it remains the responsibility of parents to decide whether or not their children shall attend school under existing conditions. This policy has to do with school closings and cancellations. If we close the school or we cancel school, there's really no parental decision to be made. It's not like we're closing the school at noon and the parent can go and say, oh, I really want my kid to stay there all day, but that doesn't work. There won't be anybody around. And so it's kind of like, that, the sentence, I don't think really applies under this policy. It certainly is the parent's responsibility and right all the time. If they feel that the conditions are such that it's not safe for their student to go to school, then they have have that right responsibility to keep them at home.
I think we talked about that at length, didn't we, Jen and Joan? We actually talked about how
Yes.
kind of weird this paragraph was
Yeah.
to be in this policy. So
Yes, because didn't we take some of it out?
we took,
Yeah,
we
we
took a
did.
bunch out of this that just
Yeah.
didn't fit, so.
Right.
It makes good sense to remove this as well.
Yeah.
Any other comments? I'll call for the vote.
All right, Bob,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes,
Robbie,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and Dory.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 6.4, entertain a motion to approve the first reading of the following policy, EEA, Student Transportation Services.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
Yeah, I have one. Underneath, C, hazardous walking conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Hazardous walking conditions shall be defined as those which would place a child of a given age in a situation of greater than normal or average danger. Who decides that?
That's a great question. I think that's, one of the things that we do, is that when we get a request to look at bus stops, Glenn and I go out and look at that. I think the intent there, is it says in paragraph 2, in case this question, this is talking about distance, but I think in general, will be measured and established by the superintendent. So when we get a request to look at a bus stop or a hazardous condition, Glenn and I actually go out and look at those. I can't tell you how many we've looked at over the course of the last 4 years. And I take a hard look at what those walking conditions look like, what the lighting is like, what those kind of things. At the end of the day, the policy itself is pretty nebulous as to who decides that. I think the intent is, I think that's up to me, sort of, and that's why, I can look at things, I have one perspective. That's why I always bring Glenn with me, because I look at it from the perspective, he looks at it from the perspective of a bus driver, and, from a transportation component, I look at it more from, the other side of kids walking, things like that, so.
Well, the reason why I asked, because I've been asked this recently,
Mhm.
you have a street with a cul-de-sac
Yep.
that goes all the way around.
Yep.
They go through it to pick up kindergartners.
Yep.
But they make everybody but kindergartners walk down to the end of the road.
Interesting,
Yeah,
that's interesting,
right.
yeah.
And it's not like they would have to turn around, back up. It's a complete circle cul-de-sac.
See, and I'd like to take a look at that one, because
Yeah.
that would be one where I would say, well, if we're going up there anyway.
And I was told that from the house to the street
Yep.
is like half a mile, but the street is, it's kind of secluded, it's in an out of the way place.
Yep.
So, but it wouldn't be like the bus had to turn around anywhere,
No, it could go up.
and they go up to pick up kindergartners.
Yep. Sure, no, that makes good sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that would be one where I would recommend, if one of the parents on that route wants to give Glenn and I a call.
right, and it's not just high schoolers, I'm talking like, 4th, 5th, 6th graders,
Even on that same run.
even on that same run,
That's interesting to me.
yeah,
I'd like to know where that is.
So you're getting on the same bus that the kindergartners are getting on?
yeah.
Or is it
Yeah,
a separate run?
No, it's a separate run,
So it's a separate run,
right.
Okay,
my
Right,
son,
no, it's a separate run,
okay, so it's two different runs.
right,
So we hold a different threshold when we.
right,
look-
I know we do,
Yeah, when we look
And
at,
that's what I told them,
yeah,
that we try and bus stop, more than one student.
yeah,
You
to
know what I
reduce the
mean?
number of stops that we're making. So
Right.
I thought you were talking about kids on the same
No,
run.
no,
some have to
no,
walk.
it's
Okay.
a,
Cause
it's a,
that would be
yeah,
bizarre.
cause I know where it is.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you that I got asked the question.
Yep.
That if the bus goes up there, it doesn't have to back up anywhere, or it's not a tight turnaround,
Sure.
you
Well,
know?
we have a bus going up there on the first run, so
Right,
that's interesting, but I think part of it has to do with the second run. We
Right.
try to,
try to
well,
limit
that's
the
actually,
stops,
that's actually the first run.
right,
So the first run, the morning run, we
Right.
try to
But
congregate
now in the
students.
morning, and with time change, the morning, it's gonna be pitch black there and there is no street light,
Right, right.
you know?
Yeah, so I'd like to know where that is so we can look at that.
we're turning the clocks back this weekend.
It'll be bright in the morning, so that would
Right,
be.
so, right,
Yeah, I'd like, afterwards, can you let me know where that is, Robbie, so we
Yeah,
can
sure.
go with that, yeah.
Yeah.
My son had that where we lived at. They used to come
Well,
up and
my
pick up
kids
the
too, they
the
would-
kindergarten,
they
but
would-
all the other
right.
kids had to walk down to the railroad tracks.
right, yeah, our kids had, they couldn't come up Conway Street and turn the bus around, cause there was no turnaround at the end of the street, so my kids had to walk down to the end of High Street and pick the bus up there.
Yeah.
Even my kindergartner,
Yeah, we have certain situations where we can't get buses up
right,
in
yeah,
and
and I
get them
understood,
back out.
yeah, and I understand that,
Yeah.
but this isn't that, this is
No.
a complete cul-de-sac
Okay,
with a
so let's,
circle.
alright, so that's an issue that come up, so the policy, there's no change to the policy. You're
Well,
just
I'm
asking a question on
not,
how
I'm
it's being
not
applied.
happy with not having
I-
the person designated in the policy,
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Well, it is established, well, superintendent.
Right.
up
Yeah.
there.
I mean, if we.
I have a question about our policy where kids cross the road. Like, are they, like, what is our policy where we do not allow children to cross the road to get to the bus? Like, on major routes, are they not allowed to cross on the bus?
We have-
Or if there's like a hidden drive or a curve or a hill?
It depends on the stop, that's a
Like,
stop.
are those,
Yeah, that's a stop-by-stop basis thing, like, for instance, we don't want kids crossing 126. We try to avoid that at all costs. Again, a lot of what happens for us with transportation purposes is concerned is that to get into places and then get buses, we've got a lot of roads, we
That-
just can't get
right.
buses in and get them out, cause the bus is too big and trying to find a turnaround. We're actually not allowed to turn around on private property unless we get express written, we have to get permission from the property owner. So Andrea, I will tell you, we try at all costs not to have kids cross roads at any time. Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil given some of the roads that we have to be on. That's one of the reasons why, a couple of years ago, we had stop arm cameras put in everywhere, so, because we were having a rash of people passing buses, and so that has significantly lessened with the stop arm cameras, but we take that on a stop-by-stop basis, if we're out on, I'm trying to pick a road in my mind, Huntington Hill's not a good one either, but a small road where there isn't a ton of traffic, there are times where kids will cross those roads, but we avoid that on 126 or 197,
Yeah.
places like that at all costs, because it's just, the traffic is just too fast on those roads.
Any other comments on the policy?
okay, thank you. I have another question, sorry. So do we encourage parents to walk their children across the road, or like, how does that work?
Well, so I mean, if there is a parent at the bus stop, that happens quite a bit. But we also, we do the bus protocols in place, just like when I was a kid. The bus comes to a stop, the kids are taught to wait at the stop until the driver tells them to come across. But I'll tell you, Andrew, we have a lot of stops where there are no parents at the bus stops in the morning. There just aren't.
Okay,
Okay, thank you so much.
so my only comment on this one is that we need a space between the paragraphs at the bottom.
Yep.
I don't know if we're just trying to get it all on one sheet of paper, up the header or whatever, but
We can.
not a big thing, but it just,
Now, Robbie, can I go back just for a sec?
Sure.
Did we want to add something to the what you were talking about, or do you think it's?
Well, I would say we would add who it is, and, the superintendent and the transportation coordinator,
Under that C.
yeah.
I don't think it'd be appropriate just under a subparagraph.
Okay.
All right, I mean,
Yeah,
we want the superintendent to be responsible for all this. So, while the second paragraph talks about distance, measured
Yeah.
as short as public road, in case of question, this will be measured, established by the superintendent, that's just cases, the distance measured and established by the superintendent. So perhaps somewhere in here, there should be a comment that,
What if you added it?
well, I'm just talking about the decision
Right.
process, I think it's just opening us up to, people not knowing who's making the decision.
So under the exceptions pieces, I think that's what we're talking about.
Right,
Those
yes.
exceptions.
Yeah.
What if you added exceptions to the above distance shall be made for the following reasons be made by the superintendent and transportation
Yeah.
director for the following reasons only.
Right,
Right, and then down at the very end, it talks about request for, stops inconsistent policy made to superintendent.
yeah, so I'm all right with
Gonna
that.
make a
Well, it's already
request.
there, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
already there,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Any other comments? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Bob,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and Dory. Dory? Oh, nope, she's gone. All right,
Okay,
Okay.
motion carried.
motion carries, yep.
All right. 6.5, entertain a motion to approve the first reading of the following policy, EEAEA, student transportation employee requirements, training and responsibilities.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, discussion.
yeah, I have one in that first paragraph, Andy.
Yep.
Where it says the work requires physical strength, mental poise, ability to cope effectively with emergencies, excellent driving skills, and the ability to relate positively with children, sounds like a job description.
Can you
to
hear me now?
Yes.
Sounds more like a job description to me than something that should be in the policy.
Yeah.
And I think physical strength is kinda
Can you hear me now?
abstract,
Yes, Dory, we hear you.
kinda abstract.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think it's just putting a lot of stuff in there that we don't really need
In a policy, I would
in a
agree.
policy.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and actually, a lot of those things are in the job description.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's part
Yep.
of the job description.
Sure.
Okay? Any
I
other
mean,
comments?
Right, in the next paragraph, it says the things that we should have in a policy, that they
Right.
need a valid driver's license, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Other comments? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Bob,
Yes?
Jen,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes,
Joan,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
Steph, I'm sorry, Andrea,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and Dory.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you all. Going to committee reports, Finance Facilities Committee.
yeah, we met, before the meeting tonight, and, I'll start with the, financial report. Year-to-date, we've received for revenue, $4,742,651.36, which is 24.25% of the anticipated revenue. And under expensive, we've expended $4,727,410.89, which is 24.17% of our budget. So we are still, right on target. And, Andy said that he's frozen the budget. So he covered that already. And, I'll go into the facilities part. We have received 8 RFQs from architects for the, addition. And the facilities committee is gonna look them over with, and get back with Andy, Glenn, and Scott. And we'll bring we haven't decided on what number yet, candidates to the board for an interview process. So the facilities committee will do the interview, and then we'll bring a recommendation to the board for the architect. Phase 2 work is going well, just about done, like Andy said. And we're buying plenty of PPE, like Andy said. And we're also buying a lot of filters for our air purifiers, so we can have them on stock. So when the money runs out, and we'll have enough to get us through the rest of the year. So, that's it. Any questions?
I think too, Robbie, just to expand, I mentioned it earlier, but I couldn't remember what they were, and I do now. We've got two things left on the performance contract. It's the replacement of the AC
Yeah.
handlers at, that we have at Kerry Ricker.
Yeah, Carrie.
And the roof on the guidance wing of the
Yeah,
high school.
of the
But
high school.
That one won't come probably
Till spring.
Till spring.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, Personnel Policy Committee.
We haven't had any meetings with the personnel, and tonight we will make sure that all of these policy corrections will be in the second reading.
And we will meet again soon, because I'm working on policies. So,
Okay,
we'll have more coming.
Okay, never ending.
any questions? Okay, CAI Technology Committee.
We did not meet tonight, and just what Kathy had given for a report earlier in the evening.
Okay. Board member comments. Okay. No board member comments. All right, so we're getting ready to have a motion, which I mean is going to be approved, I'm pretty sure, to go into an executive session. There is no action planned other than to adjourn the meeting following this executive session. So if there's anybody out there that wants to hang around to hear us come back and adjourn, you're welcome to do that. I'll have to try and figure out how to let everybody back in once the executive session's over, all right? In case you hang around, but this will be restricted to the board members only. The superintendent will not be present because this is about his performance evaluation. All right, so at this time, I entertain a motion to enter to an executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A, superintendent evaluation.
So moved.
Been moved, may I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Bob?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
Joan?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And Dory?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we'll put all non-board members into the waiting room, I guess, and then that way, if they want to hang around, they can.